Public institution and governance. The first one is Election Commission, National Parliament, independent of judiciary, politicians, participants, bureaucracy and public administration, local government, electronic media and press, and NGOs and civil society. Now let's talk into detail on each of these. Wow. Okay, regular election. Okay, election commission. Regular election both at the national and local level is one of the uh, prerequisites of democracy as well as governance. Governance by the representatives of people cannot be effective unless the representatives are truly elected, reflecting wish of people. If the election itself is not fair, the authority of the representatives will also be questioned with the weaken of the government, as David Beckham Betham observes. Traditionally, elections are considered to be one of the instruments of democratic governance as they empower the votes of making a choice of leadership, election facilities, and mass participation in politics, and thereby in state policymaking process. The election also makes the government accountable and representative and responsive to the needs and expectations of people, because the party in power has to think that after the end of its tenure, the tenure, they will find themselves in out of power and would have to go to the electorates for votes in the election. That's why they pay attention to the material welfare of its citizens while in power, but for having the practice in good governance, the election must be held in free and fair atmosphere. In the democratic country, the election commission is assigned in the task of holding the election freely and fairly. But it is hardly seen in Bangladesh politics. The election commission in the country is real, since not independent and free from the clutch of expensive and legislative and legislature. The executive and legislative bodies both directly and indirectly influence the election commission during election period to manipulate the election result favor of immediate past political government, and that's why almost every election in Bangladesh which has been. Okay, I'm not going to read this part. Following the fall of Mujib regime during the long-term military rule of Zia and Ershad, Bangladesh experienced the state-mandated election both at the local and national level. Eventually, after a decade-long anti-democracy, Ershad had to quit and transfer power to caretaker government of Justice Shahabuddin Ahmed, who held a free, fair, and participatory election in 1991, through which BNP came to power under the leadership of Khaleda Zia. But the crisis started after the election of Magura, when the ruling BNP was alleged to have rigged the voting. Simultaneously, Awami League, under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina, won the second parliamentary election in 1996 under the caretaker government of Justice Habibur Rahman, and but allegedly did the same types of rigging, but allegedly did. Okay, allegedly means not sure, but probably. It was alleged that that AL activities captured the polling centers and stuffed ballot boxes and take out the ballot papers and thus got candidate. All these practices have been possible for election commission was forced to act in favor of the party in power at times. This severely contributed to the ruination of participatory governance in Bangladesh, but the matter of hope that during the last caretaker government regime, hardened by Fakhruddin Ahmed, some remarkable changes like separation of election commission, uh, secretariat of prime minister's office were brought into election commission to make it more effective and independent. This resulted in holding nine primary parliamentary election in 29 December 2008 in mostly fair and transparent way. And then national parliament. The legislature is one of the key institutions in democratic politics and play important role in promoting good governance. In fact, governance goals of greater accountability, transparency, and participation are directly related to the primary functions of parliament, the parliamentary democracy and sovereignty of the people resist in its upheld through the legislature. It acts as the custodian of people's sovereignty. The very first function of the legislature is its role as constitute, constituent assembly enshrine, enshrines and the fundamental principle of governance and embodies the institutions entrusted with them, both in constitution making and enactment of various laws. The legislature can ensure good governance if the wishes of people, their hopes, and aspirations are truly reflected in constitution and elected enacted laws thereafter. Then we have the Parliament. Lord Bryce is in his seminal work Modern Democracies recognized that legislature constituted as indispensable machinery of the government in democracies, but felt that because of party causes and pressure groups dignity and moral influence of representatives legislatures have been declining. But for the practice of good governance, participant has to be effective and relevant as a form of political debate and decision making, ensuring participation of all political parties, both in government and oppositions. For, ins- for instance, in British political system, the participant is independent and effective legislative body which can perform its assigned function freely and fairly. Informed informed parties Parliament can challenge any part of the administrative work of the government and also can dismiss the dismiss either the candidate under the cabinet or a whole of the minister directly responsible. But ironically, Bangladesh Parliament has become almost irrelevant in form of political discourse and decision making. All the major characteristics of strong legislature are virtually absent in Bangladesh. Okay. In addition, this dilatory attitude toward opposition of parties who in crisis, years, ruling party, and etc. Okay. By the way, these are not my opinions. Our teacher provided us with these slides to study, and I'm not touching the book. So yeah, the main thing is to understand the basic of public institutions and governance, and that's what this video is about.